Welcome back. It is always a good day when I wake up and I know immediately that today is a day that I am privileged to introduce you to another intriguing human being. And boy, oh boy, does this guy have a story. You're going to want to pause the recording, go back and say, what did he say? Um, Not only an author, but he's an intuitive medium. He is, let's see, he's an ordained minister. He has his master certifications in life coaching. He has done it all. So I'll introduce Ray in just a moment. Just a quick little housekeeping. The next room, to me, it's where death is dinner conversation. And I am so grateful for all of the downloads. New cities on board. I don't know what's going on in New Brunswick, but holy cow, Miramichi, never been there, but that is my number one market for downloads. Big old circle right there on the map. So thank you. New York, New York, New Baltimore, Richmond, Virginia, Post Post Falls, Idaho, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, Miami, Florida, and of course, my good buddies down in Australia, Sydney. You guys are always there for me. So thank you. Please follow me on Facebook. We have a very interactive, very compassionate group of individuals there. Instagram, pretty much anywhere. And if you are listening and you have an idea for someone that I should be hip to, you want to introduce us, it's just the next room with Jane at Gmail. Super easy to do. Okay. Ray Catania is my guest today. Unbelievable. I guess the first thing I thought about was when I read the title of his first book, which is The Atheist and The Afterlife. And this is an autobiography. So for you YouTubers, here is the cover. It drew me in immediately. And then this cracked me up. And I was telling my girlfriend about it. I love this. You're still alive. Now act like it. This is Empower, Elevate, and Enlighten Your Consciousness. Here is Ray's newer book. Welcome to the next room, Ray.
Jane, thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you today. Thank you.
Well, listen, we're just going to start right off because I have so many questions. As you can see, I'm a sticky note girl. Okay, so how does one go from being agnostic, atheist, to becoming this psychic medium believer? Let's start there and just give me a thumbnail sketch of how you went from, you did a pivot, very big pivot.
Oh yeah, sure
Okay.
did. Sure. Well, I guess it starts with childhood. And, I grew up in a home that wasn't particularly happy one. It was, one of a lot of arguing, fighting, drama, and trauma. And I tried to kind of escape that. The things that were going on in my home as a small child. I just wanted to get away from that. And my method of doing so would be to hide, maybe, in my room or in a closet, under the bed, in the backyard, in the basement. And I would isolate myself from everyone else. And I'd be in that situation for hours on end. And it would happen regularly. I mean, this was a daily occurrence. So, I was basically doing the equivalent of meditating 4 to 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers back then. So it's me and a wall, and I'm basically looking at a wall, and I'm trying to escape my reality with my mind. And after a long time of staring at the wall, and I mean long time, you can start to see, or I began to see, what the wall was made out of. I could see the squiggly lines that were in the wall. I could see that there was energy in the wall. It didn't mean anything. It didn't register with me at the time because I'm just a child. But then the relationship, or the bond that I started to develop with energy, definitely was surpassed anything that I've even heard of as an adult with younger people, because I could start to feel that they had a presence. They had something more to them, almost like alive, if you will. Um,
Okay.
and essentially, again, I don't see them in human form, but I can feel that there's more to it. It's like having imaginary friends when you're a kid, but mine
Okay.
I could talk to, right?
Okay. That's what I was going to say is who are you referring to as they?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that grew over time, right? That relationship. And coming from a home of chaos, going into my teens and my 20s, I took that chaos with me wherever I went. I was comfortable in chaos. I was not comfortable in quote unquote normal situations. So if things weren't chaotic, I might make them so, or I might put myself in an environment that may be dangerous, or had to have some sort of dangerous element to it. And this is because I knew how to navigate those waters. I felt comfortable there. It's what we learn when we're young is what we take with us as we get older, because we know no better, or I knew no better. This is what I knew. This is where I was comfortable. So it was many years that I went through times of self sabotage. Times, like I said, I put myself in dangerous situations. I worked for some shady characters. Uh, I had a presence or a being that was kind of watching over me. And I'll give you an example. I was working in a bar with these folks, and someone starts shooting, and I duck under the bar. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get out of here. I'm not involved in the gunfight per se, but I'm there, and I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to get out of there. And I hear a voice. Now, when I say hear or see, I'm not talking about my ears or my eyes. It's just because I don't have a word to explain the telepathic interaction. So
Okay.
the being says side door. And I say, well, I'm thinking to myself, I can't go out the side door. If I get up, the shooter's going to see me. There's no way I'm going to get to that side door. And he says it again, side door, side door. So I really have no other option. So I go and I run for the side door. I get out, and then there's a long corridor I have to go down, and another door that I have to go through to get to the parking lot. Well, obviously I did make it. And don't you know, I parked my car outside that door that night. And the years that I had been there, I would never have parked on that side of the building. I always parked on the other side. Why I put my car there, I have no idea. But the thing is, what's even more important is that there's someone or something that's looking out for me. And why, I have no idea. I mean, I'm not, I don't consider myself special. I'm not chosen. I'm nothing more. I'm just a regular person who's gone through some extreme sets of circumstances. But yet this being has always been there in times of need. And there's many stories like that in the book. But another one I'll share with you is when I was very young, I was swimming in the ocean. My parents had taken me to the beach, and the undertow kept bringing me out farther and farther and farther, and I couldn't swim back to shore. The lifeguard that I was trying to get his attention, because I felt like I was going to go under, I'm waving and I'm trying to get his attention. And he's helping a group of kids that are all the way to my left. I'm again alone. I'm by myself, separating myself from everyone else. And he does not see me. I begin to go under. My father's on shore. I'm trying to wave to him. Nothing's working. I cannot swim back, as it feels like I'm swimming in place. So I'm not getting anywhere. And I begin to panic, right? The panic sets in. And here is this being. And this is what I hear. He says, stay calm, swim sideways, take all the time you need. Stay calm, swim sideways, take all the time you need. With that, a feeling of calmness came over me. I did not become calm. Someone made me calm. And that was a game changer, because now I relaxed and I did exactly like I was told. I swam sideways, It took me a long time to get to shore, but I got there. I was out of breath. I collapsed. People were coming around me to see if I was okay. And of course, now I'm scared because I'm a little kid. I'm about 10 years old, and I'm trying to
Right.
get away from these people that are going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm running, trying to run away. So, again, every single time my life was on the line, right before death, right before almost certain death, this being would be there to help me and get me out of that situation. Um, so it's at the age of 20 when I actually do have my NDE. This is when I'm in my home. I still live with my parents. My bedroom's on the second floor, the stove and the kitchen's on the first floor. Obviously, the stove is in the kitchen. The stove runs on gas, natural gas. So what had transpired was there was a leak from the stove, and the gas is rising and it's going up directly into my room as I'm sleeping. And I'm inhaling this gas for, well, we don't really know how long. But in the morning, I suppose my mother got up to turn on the stove, and there was a large, like a burst of flames. It caught the wall on fire, the back wall. There was some smoke that also was in the room, but it was not the fire and not the smoke that was bothering me or that got me. My father put the fire out rather quickly with a fire extinguisher, the way I understand the story. But the gas fumes were rising all night long, and I was inhaling them. So as I hear the fire trucks, I hear the police cars, I hear all this commotion, I try to get out of bed, and I find that my legs will not move. They feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds each. My head, I can't get it off the pillow. It also feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. I can't yell for help. So what I did do was I grabbed the edge of the bed and I started to pull myself to the edge, trying just to get out. And I would pull myself closer and pull myself closer, and I would pass out, and then I would wake up again because I'd hear the noise, get a little closer. And finally, I knew if I didn't get out of this bed, I was dead. And I pulled with everything I had left, and I tumbled out of the bed, and I landed face first on the floor. Now, here's what's strange. When I hit this floor, I know my face hit first, no question, but I feel no pain. And this is because in that moment, I was no longer in that body. In that moment, I was in the upper corner of the room looking down on my lifeless body. And I'm not afraid by this for some reason. It does not scare me. It actually feels kind of good. And adjacent to me is this beautiful, huge cone-shaped white light, like a spotlight that's shining on my energetic self, not my dead self, but me, the real me. And it is euphoric. It is painlessness. It is love. It is all things beautiful. And I am one with this light.
At this point, Ray, and you're describing an NDE and near death experience, were you up until that point a non-believer of a grander power or energy, divine love, God, whatever you call it?
Mm-hmm.
You were.
Yes,
Okay.
I was. So being a child coming from this environment, and my parents were Christian. I was certainly rebelling against them. But in addition to that, I had difficulty believing that any of the things that were transpiring in my young self, any loving God would allow to transpire. It didn't make sense to me. And so I rejected it. And I went to the extreme other side and chose to be a non-believer. It made more sense to me, and it was simpler. But now here I am, and I'm having this experience, and I feel so much euphoria while I am in this light. And the further I go in, the more the euphoria increases. And there's this being at the end of the light. Here he is again. And I just say he because there's no way to know he or she. I have no idea. It's just all I can see are some lines at the end of the tunnel, like squiggly lines that look like energy moving around. Um, but
Sure.
he says
Yeah.
it's safe to come into the light. It's okay. You can come into the light. And I proceed to go in. And as I go in, it gets better. The feeling is more euphoric. And I want to get to the other side of the light. That's what I want to do.
Sure.
And in this moment, my father kicks in the door, comes running in the room, scoops me up off the floor, and he's screaming for the paramedics. And he's distraught. He's crying. He's holding me tightly. And in all the years I've known this man, he's not one to hug me. He's never shown that type of love or affection. And I wanted that. I longed for that. And I started to ask or negotiate, if you will, if I can go back because I wanted that. I wanted to feel that love that I was feeling in that moment. And when I woke up, I was not in that room anymore. I was in the living room. I was on the floor, face up, of course, and the paramedics are on top of me and they're doing whatever it is paramedics do, right? They have all their tools out, their equipment out. They're checking my blood pressure. They're saying, bring up the truck. We got to get this guy in. Come on, bring up the truck. And I'm like, guys, I feel great. What's going on? I feel fantastic. I really did. The euphoria was still with me. And they're like, you're not okay. We have to bring you in. And I said, but did you hear the voice? Did you see the light? Did you feel that? They start looking at one another like I'm crazy. This is the moment that I knew I needed to shut my mouth or I was going to go to the wrong hospital, one that I can't get out of.
Mhm.
And similarly to when I ever brought up those energies I saw as a small kid, also, they don't exist. I'm crazy. So whenever I discuss anything paranormal, I'm considered crazy by whomever I'm speaking to.
Hmm.
So I learned very quickly to keep my mouth shut about this stuff.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to, you know, there's so much to unpack here and we have limited time, but I want to talk to you about, so you go through this experience, you have this life altering experience. When exactly, how old were you when you said, okay, I don't mind that people think I've flipped my dome doily. I am going to lean into this and go into a deep dive of discovery.
Oh my God, that happened so many years later because
Ah,
the
okay.
NDE, I just chalked it up to the sun was shining through the window.
Oh, of
That's the
course.
white light.
Logic, right? Logic.
Logic. Yes, of
Right.
course.
Okay.
And I inhaled the gas fumes and they made me hallucinate. And there was the
Wow.
voice and the being. So
Of
I
course.
packaged it up, put it away,
Sure.
left it for
Nice,
another couple of decades.
nice, neat, and tidy. Let's
Hmm.
talk about Jesus,
Okay.
because in The Atheist and the Afterlife, your autobiography, you talk a lot about Jesus.
Mm.
And I'm a fan. He's an extraordinary being. So
Absolutely.
tell me about your experience and when you came to know and respect and want to know more about this being.
So, as being brought up a Christian, I was always taught about Jesus. I was always had to go to Sunday school, as we called it back then. And the one, thing about Christianity that I was drawn to was Jesus. Now, I did not view him in the light that many others did, but there was no doubting his existence. And there was no doubting the amazing human being that he was, even if I did not want to accept that he was anything more. So I've been a fan for the longest time. Now, when I finally do come to terms with the fact that I am different, I am a medium. I discover the fact that what this is. I get some help because I thought I was insane. I literally I had a breaking point where I made sure my affairs were in order, my children were going to be taken care of, and in case this was, I was nearing the end of my life, because these beings, now I could see them in human form, not with my eyes again. It's always in the third eye. It's in movie screen. That's in my third eye. And they're appearing to me as human. And this is beyond my comprehension. I have no idea what's happening. And I'm at a point where I'm ready to give up. And I want to make sure that my brother has my will and he's got my DNR, because there is no way I want to be resuscitated ever again. I want to go back to that light. In the back of my mind, all that time, I lived a life of not fearing death as a result of that NDE, even though I compartmentalized it and stuck it in a box, right? Because it's so powerful that it's really difficult to deny. But anyway, now we're at a point where I know, because I see these beings, and I'm thinking I'm crazy, I'm going to be locked up. And it's at this time that I meet a woman. I got to tell you a little bit of a backstory first. I got married around the age of 30, 32, had 2 kids, 2 boys. I was drinking very heavily to make these beings go away so I didn't have to see them or interact. That was the only way I knew how to shut it down. So when they're born, I check myself into rehab. I go back to college. I straighten my life out. I get a very good job, leads me to more good jobs, and I do very well for myself. But my marriage falls apart quickly. I had the kids most of the time. So I wanted to give them everything that I did not get. And I was not going to be a drunk father. I was not going to be a father without money. I was not going to be a father that wasn't going to be around. I wanted to be all the things that I didn't have. And I was. But I never addressed the things I could see. And it was in my mid to late 40s, I decided to date again. And I go online to meet someone, because that's how we do it now. And I'm going through the different sites, trying to figure out which one to join. And when you do this, they show you a couple of ladies that live in your area to try to entice you to join their particular site. And this one picture of this one woman pops out at me. And I know in my gut, with every fiber of my being, that's my wife. I know this. And I join the site and I send one email, and basically, I told her this. I joined the site to send this one email to you and you only, because you're my wife and you just don't know it yet. And I said it in a much more funnier way than that. But,
Sure.
Luckily she did respond. I actually copied and pasted it and put it in a book. And she's like, do we have to put all that in there? I was like, yeah, I think it's pretty good. So anyway, we are married. We are still together. And that was the case. But here's the thing. When we first start dating, I start seeing this man who's appearing right in my movie screen. He is a heavier guy, dark hair, beard and mustache, stocky guy. And he comes to me and he says, I effed up. I made a mistake. You can help her. I cannot. I have no idea who he is. I have no idea what this message is intended for, who it's intended for, or what it's meant to mean. And he repeats it and repeats it and repeats it. Now, this began on a Friday. I left work because I just said I had a headache and I wanted to go home. And by Saturday, it's almost like you're watching a video and it rewinds and then plays itself again. So it's like a video loop that's just playing over and over. On Saturday, it seemed like it was every hour on the hour, or maybe every half hour, very consistent, over and over. Here it is. I effed up. I made a mistake. You can help her. I cannot. By Sunday, it felt like it was every 5 minutes. I could not function. I could not drive a car. I could not have a conversation with anyone. I was not, I was no longer functioning normal. And I remember the breaking point. I was at the counter. I'm paying for my stuff at the counter. And I must have did something because the lady says, "Are you okay, sir?" And I said, no, I'm really not. And that's when I went back out to the car. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm losing my mind. So I have to prepare for this. Now, now I've got to tell this woman I just found, who I'm in love with, that I'm seeing people that aren't there. And guess what? She is a doctor of psychology and neuropsychology by trade. So I'm going to tell a doctor of psychology who I love, who we're dating, we're getting serious, that I see things and I hear dead people. This is not going to go over well, I think. So I finally get the courage to tell her, and I'm thinking like this: either one of two things is going to happen, or maybe both. She's going to run away, but she might give me a phone number of someone who can really help me. Okay. Like a doctor or something. And that's what I'm expecting. So, but that's not what I get at all. When I proceed to tell her the series of events, how they transpire, and what the man says, she looks at me and says, "Wow, that sounds like my dad." And I said, "Your dad is dead." And she's like, "Yeah, I know. You're a psychic medium and you just don't know it." And I'm like, "What the heck is a medium?" Because I don't even know what these things are yet. And she proceeds to explain it to me what it is. And she says, "There's a medium that's coming to our area. Let me bring you to her. You can ask your questions and you can see if, you guys see things the same way, feel things the same way, etc." I said, "Okay." But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, she's nuts. And I need to get out of here. But I go along for the ride because what have I got to lose? The alternative is I'm getting locked up because I'm schizophrenic. So I meet the woman. We sit down, we talk. She says, "Tell me what's going on, Ray." And I said, "I think I'm insane." She chuckled. She says, I've been accused of that as well. Why don't you have a seat and tell me what's happening?" And so I proceed to tell her, I feel the vibrations. Sometimes they're low, sometimes they're high. A little change in the temperature, the lines across the room. And then in my mind, this movie screen opens and I see, and she goes, "Stop." And I said, "What?" She says, "That's exactly the way I see it too. You're a medium." And in that moment, I felt relief, but I also did not know what was expected of me now if this is true. What are my obligations? What do I have to do with this? How do I go about doing anything with this? So to shorten the story, she becomes my mentor for the first year. And thank God she did, because she saved my life.
What's her
And
name?
her name was Bonnie. And she was one of the very first people that I came into contact with. I refer to her as Medium Bonnie, and my next mentor is Medium Joe. They just took me under their wing, taught me how to turn it on, turn it off, how to navigate these waters, and really teach me how to use this, not just for the benefit of myself, but also for others.
The Atheist and the Afterlife. My guest, Ray Catania. Boy, so many stories. His second book is You're Still Alive, Now Act Like It. Ray, I want to touch on this before we have to wrap up.
Sure.
So talk to me about chasing the wrong things. You have a part in here where you say that you were chasing the wrong things. And I want to know what you mean by that.
Sure. So that stems from one of the common questions: what is happiness? We think that what makes us happy is typically what someone else told us happiness is supposed to look like. And I coach many, many people now that are in their 40s. They're at the top of their career. They have 2.2 kids. They've got the house in the burbs. You look at them from the outside and you think everything is spectacular. And they come to me and say something is missing. I'm not happy. Why? And it's because you have a perception of happiness, something that somebody told you would make you happy, when in fact, you never found you and never found what makes you happy. So that egoic mind, which stems from our subconscious, which comes from everyone else's beliefs and everything that they tell us throughout our lives and our experiences, that ego starts to dictate how we're going to live our life. And one of those things is, this is what will make you happy. And like 90% of the things that this egoic mind tells us is false, because it's not us. It's not us at all. We are at the top of our consciousness, our awareness. That is at the very top of our consciousness, because we called it the God mind in college. It's connected to God or the universe or the collective, whatever term you wish to use. It's the highest level because we are aware that we're having an experience, we're having a thought, we're having an emotion. And if you're aware of those things, then guess what? You can change them. You can change the way you look at them. You can change the way you feel about them. And this was the breakthrough that I found. And that's why I wrote the second book, because this is a way to experience what I experienced and what I call my spiritual awakening.
Okay.
And going through that process, for me, one of my biggest emotions was anger. And anything that I experienced, I would go back to anger, because that's what I saw. Again, that was my programming. And until I changed my programming in my subconscious and stopped listening to my ego, I would get mad. If I was sad, I would get mad. If I was depressed, I would get mad. It was always anger.
Right.
And so I worked on this so hard. Eckhart Tolle says something very profound about how you can change this. Put yourself in the third person. Put yourself as the director of your own movie,
Right.
starring you, your life story, right?
I love that.
And
I love that.
take a step back, observe yourself in the moment, and tell yourself how you want to behave, how you want to act, how you want to feel.
Right.
And then follow that through. Well, I did that a million times until I lost my anger. And then one day it happened. One day I was driving my car that I saved a lot of money, because I thought that was a big deal at the time to have an expensive car.
Sure.
And I drove it right into a deer. And the old Ray would have got out of the car, would have been livid. The adrenaline would have surged. And I don't know what I would have done, yelled, screamed, whatnot. But none of that happened. Very, very naturally, what occurred was a feeling of calmness took over my body. And all I felt was compassion for the deer. And
Good.
I'm thinking, who am I? What have I become? And I know it's good, but I just don't recognize myself, right?
Sure.
And I get out of the car, I pick up the deer, and the deer gets up. She's fine. She walks off. I'm fine. The loser is the car. And it's just a piece of tin.
Right. Right.
And in that moment, I knew I lost my anger.
Wow. Yeah, I love this quote. It says, when you stop chasing the wrong things, you give the right things a chance to catch up or to catch you. All right, so let's move on. This Shakespeare quote, one of my favorites as well. It's there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. William Shakespeare.
Yes.
Do you believe that we completely 100% create everything in our existence, in our reality that we are having this life experience with?
I think we create most things, but we have to also recognize that there are other people that are creators also. and they are creating in our world as we are creating in their world, right? So we are not in control of every single thing, no. But I think that you can control the bigger things, the bigger picture. Are you happy? Are you sad? What makes you so? And you can manifest the things that you want in life, whether that be a particular job or children or love or money, even if that's what you want, if that's what makes you happy. Those are the things that we can control, because learning how to manifest things was a very, very powerful event for myself. And I explain how to do that in the book. But to get back to nothing's either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so, that is the awareness now deciding when this occurs. So my car hit the deer. Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing? I'm going to decide. Obviously, it's a bad thing in certain regard. I hit the deer. It's a negative, right? But I don't have to take it on that way. I don't have to let it ruin my day. I don't have to
Right.
let it ruin my week. I don't have to take it home to my wife and complain about it. I don't have to go to work the next day and tell everybody I hit a deer and this was terrible and my car's all banged up. I can just forget it and live in the present moment and move forward. It's
Right.
not that I don't experience a negative emotion. I allow it to dissipate quickly. I
Right.
don't carry it for days.
Right. And hold on to it and carry it with you. This is from You're Still Alive Now, Act Like It. Empower, Elevate, Enlighten Your Consciousness. This is Ray's second book. Let's talk about Ray's theory of creation, because I found this super fascinating.
Hmm.
Chapter 10.
Okay. So the theory of creation, I think I have a pretty good idea of how a universe is created. And the way I looked at it was, we know that two particles came together and created a massive explosion, which basically you have two atoms splitting one another, similar to a nuclear reaction. And then they keep splitting and splitting and splitting and growing and growing and growing. Now, where could you possibly find two particles with that kind of power? How could you find two items that small with that kind of power? So I started to think about black holes. And I thought about how the black hole has everything that goes in obviously gets ripped to shreds, and it's brought all the way down to a point of singularity. And this is the tiniest of particles. But think about it. This tiny particle contains everything that flew by it in the universe, including light. So this little point of singularity does contain all the elements for a universe and the power. So what if on one side of the fabric of the universe, you have this black hole leading you down to a point of singularity, and then on the other side, you have another black hole with a point of singularity, and eventually those 2 points meet? Couldn't that have the explosive elements that are required for another Big Bang and create a new universe? I don't know for a fact, but it's just a theory.
It's
Don't beat me
Ray's
up.
theory. No, heck no, no. That's the beauty about an opinion. You know, we each have one, and we're each on our own exploration of what this is, this experience, and what perhaps is waiting for us in the next room,
Hmm.
or the next room, or the next room, or the next room. Okay, so I want to hop ahead to here and now. So, the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of here and now, Ray, what is it that you feel or that you have been finding out is your purpose here
Mm-hmm.
in this human form, having this life experience as Ray Catania?
So I think that, well, dare I say, I think everyone wants to reach a place of contentment and enlightenment. I know that's a big word. Let's say, I think we have several awakenings to enlightenment, right? And I think we all want to achieve more awakenings to get us to the eventual point of enlightenment. And like the Buddha told us before he died, he said, I'm not going to be coming back because I have accomplished what I need to do. And he was telling his disciples, please take my information and carry it forward to others. Because once enlightened, we don't have to return. So what he was saying is we won't have to be reincarnated, do it all over again. So my theory on that was, well, this is a learning process. And when we pass, so to speak, or graduate, we get to move on. Now, I've seen beings in the fourth realm, and I'm just using that number because many have referred to this as the third. It's not my number, just a number. So if the next one is fourth, then the next one is fifth. And I think that my spirit guides, those that I cannot identify as male or female, those that are just, they appear to be the lines of energy, and yet they can get me out of the worst situations and guide me and protect me. I think those are enlightened beings. And in the fourth realm, the ones that I've spoken to and I can communicate with, well, they're still carrying regret, remorse. Can you please get this message to somebody? I love you. I should have said that more. It's always guilt, regret. It's not. So you can tell that they did not accomplish what they needed to do. They didn't reach that phase of enlightenment. So the more awakenings we have, I believe we return until we reach the ultimate state of enlightenment. And then we get to skip past that level and we become the guides and the masters. And again, that's just a theory. Don't beat me up.
No.
It's just the theory.
There's no beating on the next room. We're getting close to saying goodbye for today, but I can have you back on because I could really talk to you at depth.
Thank you.
Over and over. Let's just wrap this up with manifestation through meditation, because so many people ask me about my practices and what I've done to, kind of obtain the thought process that I have currently. I would like to hear yours.
Yeah, sure. So there's a little story behind this because I was with my second mentor, and primarily he was teaching me and 10 other people mediumship. But he taught us a lot of things about spirituality, about the world, the afterlife. I mean, I could go on and on. So one of the things was this particular meditation that enables you to manifest. And I'll be honest with you, when he first said it, I was like, I'm not sure. He's always guided me in the right direction, but this sounds a little, I don't know. But what happened is my son, my son was going away to college. I had everything done, prepared, right? And the college at the last minute tells me that I owe them $10,000. And I don't know how I made a mistake like of that magnitude, but it was exactly 10,000. So obviously it was a calculation error on my part. And I had to come up with $10,000, and I had about 48 hours to do it. And I said, well, if there's ever a time for me to use this, I think it's now. So essentially what we do is we go into a meditative state and we use the sound ah. And what I do is I find an ah chant on YouTube, something that resonates with me. There's millions of them.
Oh yeah.
And
Wayne
it's just,
Dyer.
yeah,
So good.
yeah, Wayne Dyer. That's right. He has a very
one of my favorites. Very powerful.
yeah. And we use ah because it's the sound of creation. God, Yahweh, Allah, all the terms for God have ah.
Right.
So you don't have to necessarily chant along if you don't want to. If you're not comfortable, you can just listen to the chants. But the idea is to get this frequency flowing through your body, feel it from head to toe. And when you're there, the next step is something that I call the attitude of gratitude. And this is where what we do is we say all the things we're grateful for. And again, this is placing us in a positive place, in a higher frequency, so that we are building upon that to get to where we can manifest. Okay. I don't want to say ask, because I'm not a big fan of asking for things. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But yeah, so the next part is we go into our Oz one more time, and then we go to our manifestation. And when we're there, it's where we say, I need $10,000. I need it now. I need $10,000. I got it on the first day.
I love it. I'm telling you, Ray Catania is my guest today on The Next Room. Going to hold these up for the YouTube fans. The Atheist and the Afterlife. It's his autobiography. This is book number 1. And you're still alive. Now act like it. There should be a damn it after that. Empower, elevate, and enlighten your consciousness. I will hold this up as well. Ray, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. Ray does readings for individuals. He is intuitive. He's a medium. He's a minister. He's an author and a speaker. Obviously, he's got lots of great stories. So I will post all of the links for you to be able to find him, to purchase his books, to contact him if you're looking for a reading. I'm assuming you do them online as well. You know, so I appreciate you being here today.
Jane, thank you so much. It was an honor. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. You can close us out with one final thought before I say
Hmm.
goodbye.
Well, I would say that keep in mind a few things. One is that we all come from one source. And please, when we say this, I really mean this in the true sense. We're all energy. We're made of this energy. Everything is made of the same energy. It comes from this one source. And remember to be kind to others, because if you hurt someone else, you're hurting yourself, because you're connected to that same entity that we're all connected to. It is imperative to care for each other. It is imperative to care for all living things. You will return to that source, and you may return here again. So, just each and every day, I try to do one thing for someone else that's just all about them. And yeah, I'll do one thing for myself, because I believe in self-care as well. And that keeps a balance for me to help other people. And the cycle continues, and it brings me what I feel is good karma. And I just think that that's a simple way to live. And it brings me so much pleasure.
Beautifully said.
Thank
I
you.
love to say, if you can be anything on this planet, be kind. And
Mm.
as Ray just so eloquently expressed himself. Thank you, Ray Catania, my guest today on The
Thank you.
Next Room. I could talk to him forever. We barely even got to book number 2 because I wanted to get to your story first. The Atheist and the Afterlife. You're still alive. Now act like it. Please support him and all of the individuals that I have on my show. It's the only way that a podcast can grow. So thank you for tuning in to The Next Room, where death is dinner conversation. You have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you.